Compulsive gambling, environmental and cultural factors. In the media, gambling often is portrayed inaccurately. Those with gambling addictions can therefore be misunderstood. The media often portrays gambling in the extremes. Gambling can be seen as glitzy and glamorous, with a large sum of money as a reward, or life-threatening with a hitman coming to collect a debt, as often portrayed in fictional movies and TV shows. Movies can portray that gambling can provide a happy ending to one's struggles. The negative portrayal of gambling in the movie suggests that gamblers cheat or are suckers, or that gambling is operated by organized crime. There are countless international televised poker tournaments that portray positive outcomes. Celebrities or other individuals are portrayed at poker tournaments winning large sums of money and advertise their success at gambling. This gives the impression that gambling can be a lucrative career choice. This can inaccurately depict the odds of winning at gambling in an unrealistic way, thus may create a gambling problem, chasing the losses. Compulsive gambling can negatively affect family relationships. A gambling problem for one person negatively affects at least 7 other people. This is often the family, including the intimate partner, children, parents, siblings, and grandparents. Family may undergo many stressors from a family member being a compulsive gambler, including financial strain, lies in trust, anger, and violence. Family support can play an important role in the health incomes for the compulsive gambler. Support a family may offer include open communication, intervention, education, helping with finances, support groups, and/or therapy. The role of peers for the compulsive gambler can vary greatly. Peers that the individual gambles with may encourage and enable the compulsive gambler. Oftentimes, gambling can be social in nature and can be destructive for the individual suffering from an addiction. A friend may also be just what the gambler needs to overcome their addiction. A friend can offer support to the gambler and let them know they are fully behind them at stopping their addiction. They can remain non-judgmental and be patient as the gambler works to break their addiction. Family transmission of a gambling problem is a risk factor for this population. Chances increase if a family member has a gambling problem. An individual is 2 to 10 times more likely to be a compulsive gambler if a sibling or a parent has a gambling problem, 11 to 14 times more likely if a father has a gambling problem, and 7 to 11 times more likely if a mother has a gambling problem. Other intergenerational transmission of gambling problems include gambling at a young age, family problems with other addictions such as alcohol or drugs, or mental health problems. There is no known legal or political system in place for the addicted gambler. There is no federal support or funds for the compulsive gambler. Some states in the U.S. have dedicated funds for gambling help. Utah and Hawaii are the only states that have no legalized gambling. Utah does not have any state funds dedicated for compulsive gambling services. There are multiple barriers the compulsive gambler faces. Denying there is an addiction to gambling is a common barrier. The individual believing they can solve the problem themselves or feeling internal resistance and fear of treatment. There are personal and social explicit bias around gambling addiction that present barriers to the addict, and treatment options are minimal in seeking help. Internationally, there are 15 countries that have banned all forms of gambling. Anyone caught gambling in these countries will face criminal prosecution. Gambling is thought of as degrading in these countries. Countries are listed on the PowerPoint. Socioeconomic status affects the health outcome within the compulsive gambling population. Compulsive gamblers often have a lower annual income versus middle to high income groups. They often have a lower educational level, and they often work blue-collar jobs. Unemployment is associated with greater levels of gambling. Internationally, Asian cultures highly encourage gambling and discourage pursuing help when gambling becomes compulsive, and they can be considered shameful to seek help. Asian culture factors that influence gambling include gambling as a common social activity, as well as belief in superstition, numerology, and the importance of luck or good fortune. The U.S. casinos advertise heavily to Asians by offering free transportation, Asian-speaking card dealers, and Asian entertainers. Often, religions that believe in more than one God have a more optimistic view on gambling, whereas religions that believe in one God have a more negative view on gambling. Many use spirituality to overcome gambling addictions. Gamblers Anonymous and other 12-step treatment programs are based on spirituality and faith. Individuals who belong to a religion that has a negative view on gambling tend to gamble less intensely. Research suggests that men are 7.5 times more likely than women to become problem gamblers. Men tend to be greater risk takers than women and proud of the risks they are willing to take. Men also tend to be more impulsive than women and chase their losses more often. If a casino is within a 10-mile radius, there was a positive relation to compulsive gambling. States that have permissiveness of gambling laws had a positive relation to compulsive gambling more often than states that do not. The study was conclusive in the availability of gambling opportunities promoted gambling to a harmful extent. Implicit bias to the compulsive gambler are moderate to high risk gamblers had a positive attitude toward gambling in their memory structure. Low risk or non-gamblers held a greater negative attitude toward gambling. Positive attitude is thought of as pleasurable or a relaxing pastime. Negative attitude is thought of as guilt or disappointment. Compulsive gamblers had an ambivalent feeling around gambling. Explicit attitudes toward compulsive gamblers are negative traits, such as a lack of self-control, absence of guilt, tendency toward risk-taking, irresponsibility, ignorance of gambling odds, and unrealistic beliefs about winning. There are regions of the world in which the previous disparities would have less influence on health for the compulsive gambler. Studies have shown that permissiveness of gambling in casinos within a 10-mile radius increase addictive gambling behavior. There are countries that have outlawed gambling, and gambling is considered a crime. These countries have lower numbers of compulsive gamblers reported. Here's a list of references and the second list of references.